All right, everyone, it's time for the Iran Conundrum because right now there's some saber rattling going on. The allegation is that Iran, a couple of days ago, attacked some oil freighters in the Gulf of Oman. And, I think sank one of them, if I remember correctly. Basically, it looks a little bit like the Gulf of Tonkin to me. I do, however, trust the intel report involved. I do happen to believe, and some people disagree, I do believe Iran attacked the tankers. For Iran to deny it, Russia, no, they're gonna fucking own up to it. Yeah, we used a ship for target practice for no reason. Yeah, we fucking blew it up. Yeah, we did it. What are you gonna do about it? Iran's not dumb. They're not gonna do that. But that brings up a conundrum here. Let's say that the intel report is true. Let's say this isn't just Bolton warmongering. It's not just posturing. It's not just a cause for war that they're manufacturing, a war for oil or whatever. Let's assume all that's off the table and this is, true. Do I support attacking Iran? No, of course not, because that would cause a potential very large-scale regional war. Russia gets involved, it becomes a nuclear standoff. How the fuck am I supposed... And by the way, the average Iranian didn't attack an oil tanker. Just because their crazy government decides to use a ship for target practice doesn't mean that the average Iranian... some Americans, for religious reasons partially, seem to think that Iranians are like bad people or something. I don't have a stick up my ass about the Iranians. No Iranian ever tried to shoot me. No Iranian ever burned my car. No Iranian ever poisoned my cat. What the fuck did Iran do to me? I don't care about Persia. Other side of the world, their region, their business. That being said, of course, there is some problems with throttling oil supplies, which does affect me, to the tune of 2 cents a gallon when I gas up the Avalon. Oh my God. Well, the economy will go into spiral. Oh, it's terrible. I'm not worried about Iran, but here's the problem. Let's say that we don't respond. Let's say there's no measurable response from the U.S., assuming the intel report is true. And it's very, very funny, because for the first time in 2 years, the Democrats are denying intel reports. Now they're saying we can't trust them. Before they were like, if you don't trust the intel reports the intel community gives you, you're a traitor and you love Russia. Now all of a sudden, if you trust the intel reports, you're a warmonger. Interesting how that flips within a 24-hour period. But here's the problem. If we don't respond, then we look weak and Iran says, oh, well, we can do whatever we want. And Iran does, do crazy shit in the region. I mean, there's no warmongering specifically, but there is posturing. Sometimes it takes the form of, taking an American vessel and holding the soldiers hostage, or, crossing troops over the border, firing a couple missiles off that technically banned or something. So there is posturing, and it's strictly Cold War. It's as the main vassal of Russia. It's most powerful vassal. Just as with us, it's basically Israel doing its maneuvers. Just as for China, it's North Korea saber-rattling and firing off artillery. All three of the world's main power players have their little vassal. And so that's basically what it is. Of course, Israel escapes sanctioning because we shield them at the UN. But here's the thing. So if we respond, it can cause a war. That's terrible. If we don't respond, it makes us look weak. More attacks potentially happen. Iran will keep escalating until they're backed down. What then do you do? It's a difficult situation. We could just put on a show of force and, sail a couple of aircraft carriers up the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think Iran's likely to attack a U.S. aircraft carrier. It'd be a little bit like poking a beehive in the most literal sense. I don't think that they want the repercussions from that. See, the problem is our Navy's stretched too thin. We don't have enough carriers to canvass all of the areas of operations where we need carriers available. We don't even have a carrier available for the Venezuela crisis if we have no other choice but to get involved. Let's say Maduro goes nuts tomorrow, attacks the Colombians. We have to get involved. We don't even have a carrier to do that with. It'll take us 3-4 days to get enough power into the region to even mount a response. There's not much we can do. Our soldiers in Colombia would be sitting ducks. They'd all get killed. What is it, 10,000 men? Yes, they'd get steamrolled, but Maduro has enough troops to do that. Yes, he has enough troops to attack the Colombian border. He wouldn't be able to, take over Colombia or anything, but, our dudes on the front line would be nothing more than cannon fodder. And of course, it'd be a real big problem for Maduro once the missiles start flying, but, if he goes truly crazy, if he goes ballistic and decides to punish the region because he knows the gig is up, it'd be a big problem. Kim Jong-un, same thing. Let's say North Korea just goes nuts tomorrow and does actually prep some A-bombs. What are we going to do about it? Okay, we got a couple carriers up there. We can probably take care of the situation. Can we spare one for Iran? No, not really. And as we've seen, putting some little cruiser or frigate or something down there is dangerous because the Iranian Navy will take them into custody. Firing a shot across the bow doesn't matter to the enemy Navy when the enemy Navy knows, hey, they're not actually going to use lethal force to defend themselves. Not going to happen. They'll fire around our ship and they'll yell at us and they'll try to intimidate us and we'll board their ship and take their captain hostage. Yay! That's what the Iranians did before. What we should do is assert a new doctrine. We should have a new naval doctrine. Wherever they are in the world, even within another state's territorial waters, our ships will defend themselves from offensive attack by lethal force. Why don't we just do that? I bet there'd be fewer run-ins with the Russian Navy in the middle of the open Pacific. I bet there would be fewer problems. Once we start loading those railguns up, it'll be a different story too. China tried to claim that it had an operative railgun on some of its ships, and it's like, that claim is probably spurious. We've been developing that tech, and it looks pretty gnarly. It looks pretty great. To truth be told, you don't even need munitions that involve explosives. It's just a solid chunk of ordnance. Some of them, they look like a big-ass dart, like the size of a football, with a fin on the back, and you just fire it out of the railgun. It can go 2 or 3 times as far as standard munitions with almost no arc. And so you can hit things way further away with pinpoint accuracy. Really ups the ante of the U.S. Navy. By the way, most of the world's Greenwater-style navies couldn't even field such a weapon. The ships wouldn't be capable of handling the energy production necessary. It's amazing. It also saves money. Somehow firing a projectile down a tube with electricity is actually cheaper than using a small explosive to fire another explosive out of a tube. I don't know how, but it just is. But as far as Iran goes, I would say any direct military response is a terrible idea. The thing that we can do is put on a show of force and hope that they back down and say, look, we're operating here. If you attack another, a tanker or something, why don't we put cameras on the front of these ships and just observe them attacking the tankers? Why isn't there an uplink so that they can stream live footage from all the ships, the major ships in the world's oceans, so that if someone attacks them, we have evidence of it? And then the U.S. government, by the way, can plop that shit on YouTube and say, look, here's the evidence. Here's an Iranian ship, clearly marked, firing on this ship. It's live on YouTube. You can't say, Russian propaganda becomes toothless at that point. Why don't we do that and say, don't do it again? And hope that it doesn't happen again and force our hand. Because the last thing that we need right now is another war. Wars suck, in all honesty. People die. People like you and me. Now, it's not some bigwig that dies. It's not Rothschild's kids. His kids aren't going to go fight and die. Or his great-grandkids, I think. He's in the dude of fucking 100 years old. It's not going to be a Rothschild or a Rockefeller dying. It's not going to be a Soros. It's going to be little Jimmy from small-town Appalachia. He's the one that gets sent off to go die in some forsaken mountains. That's about all. Peace out.